Hello, everyone. Welcome to this Thought Leader series of podcasts from Adaptive UIs. My name is LN Mishra. I have the great pleasure of having my good friend, Fabricio, the founder of Brazilian BA, on this podcast. And we will have a very interesting discussion on what's happening around the world of business analysis, especially the role of business analysts in the new Gen AI or AI era, whatever name you want to give. Fabricio has been very closely associated with IIBA for a fairly long time. I personally have been associated with IIBA for about 15 years now. I've been part of all products that IIBA has. And I would like Fabricio to give his own introduction, and then we will continue with the discussions.
Thank you for inviting me, Ellen. It's a pleasure to join you, and it's a pleasure to talk about business analysis. It's our passion, something we really believe that can make a difference for our organizations, for a lot of people and careers. And I have been an IBA member for, I don't know, 18 years or something like that. I was
Okay.
certified in 2008 as a CBAP. I was a president of the Brazilian IIBA Brazil chapter for more than a decade. I'm currently a senior advisor for the international president of IIBA, and I'm still working as a volunteer for my chapter. So I love this community. It's a pleasure to be part of it and to see the evolution of business analysis. I believe that's what we are talking about today.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you, Fabricio. I think for me, I actually became an accidental BA. I was not planning to be a BA, but I was assigned to a client as a consulting assignment. And in that client place, I could actually implement a software solution, although I did not know coding. But I did get a friend who knew coding. So we worked together. We made a new software update for them. And that actually changed the fortune of that company. And when that happened, then I realized that BA is truly powerful. I mean, and that's what kind of prodded me to get into BA field. And I'm quite lucky to have at least interacted with probably 10,000 plus BAs now around the world. That has been a good number. Been part of training for a very long time. I think I would have taught BABOK courses for about 10, 12 years now, and probably 6,000 plus BAs around the world. That's a good news. So obviously, you mentioned about the BA role evolving. So you would have seen this for almost 20, 25 years now. How has it evolved in your own perspective?
Right. So I like to separate the BA role from the BA discipline. So when you think
Okay.
about the role of a BA, as you said, a lot of us just came up with that by accident. So Philip Hendricks likes to say that BA is it refers to by accident. So a lot of people
Okay,
came
yeah.
from IT. I came from IT. I was a software developer. And at some point, I needed to understand my customers' needs and started arguing with them. And I got this challenge about understanding the needs more than developing a solution. And I started doing business analysis. So I didn't change my role. I was still a software developer. I was
Hmm.
adding a skill into my role. So I
Hmm.
started learning how to do things differently. But it was before the discipline of business analysis was very well structured by the International Institute of Business. It was the last millennium, right? So we didn't have the IIBA at that point. We didn't have
Okay.
a BA book guide or something like that.
Yeah.
But I understand I was doing business analysis. My way into business analysis is that I at that point, I was the owner of a software house. And I had
Hmm.
a partner who was very good technically, but he could not speak
Hmm.
with any customer because he was too shy. And
Okay.
as I'm not a
Okay.
shy person, I started speaking with the customers and understanding what they needed. At some point, I wanted to understand better how to manage my company, and I did
Hmm.
a master in business administration. So I had
Okay.
a very technical skill because I was a computer scientist by graduation in university, and I did a master in business administration, an MBA, and that opened my mind to see
Okay.
not just my business because my business was very small, and I couldn't really use what I was learning into the MBA in my business, but in my customer's business. I started looking for my customers and trying to understand what are they trying to achieve, what are their goals, what are their processes. And I started articulating myself with them very in a higher level, not just talking about what software they needed to my company to develop, but what were the business goals that they needed to achieve and what are the different options for those. That's when I see myself becoming a business analyst
Okay.
and talking about business, not just software, right? And that's
True,
where
true,
the
true.
discipline is helpful, independently of
Sure.
the job title you have, or if
True,
you
true, true.
are really playing into a role. I believe
Yeah.
that this discipline can be helpful for anyone when we start to engage into the business, understand what the outcomes the business is
True,
looking
true,
for the
true, true,
different stakeholders and seeing things differently. Many
true.
professionals can benefit from
True,
business
true, very
analysis.
true. In fact, if you remember, we had a podcast long, long back between us, and that time itself, I had kind of told you that tightly coupling the business analysis activities or discipline with the role is probably a wrong thing that we did. And I
I
think it should
remember you
evolve. And
sending
I
me that.
think, yeah, so I think we should kind of start a movement, business analysis for all, or something like that, which will make people understand that it's not only business analysts who need business analysis skills, it's probably a much broader skill, which I actually feel is true for. I think if you are a product analyst, if you're a marketing analyst, you are a strategic analyst, business analysis will play an important role. Just coming
Especially
back
those
to,
roles who are engaged into business transformation, who are trying
true,
to make
very
the
true,
business better.
very
I
true,
believe
very true.
everyone should be. Some are not, but we should always be trying to see how can we make our business become better, our stakeholders get better value from what we do. So that's the change that business analysts bring into
Sure,
our head.
sure. See, for us, actually, at Adaptive, one of the primary audience that we get are IT business analysts, for good or bad. About 90% of our learners are from the IT background. And mostly these people focused on requirements analysis as a large part of their activity. And I know we developed plenty of templates, guidelines, checklists as part of our own work or as part of our consulting work. Now, with this generative AI and AI capabilities coming into picture, a lot of these things can possibly be very quickly generated by the automation systems. So how do you see the role of BA evolving in this last 2 year scenario? If we take a look, we shouldn't go back very long because things were not evolved. Once the OpenAI, ChatGPT, those kind of tools started coming in, the world is quite different. People are
Yeah.
asking a lot of questions to these engines, and these engines are providing reasonably good answer. May not be perfect answer, but they are providing good answers.
Yes. Once again, let me split my answer into two different kinds of answer for the discipline of business analysis and for the role of the business analyst, right? I'll
Okay,
start by the
good.
discipline.
Sure.
So you're right about what you're saying about AI. AI changed not just business analysis, but every profession is being changed by AI, and it make it possible for us to do things very fastly with more in some ways more quality, validate ideas, look for a wider range of possibilities. Let's say, just for the sake of this conversation, that I work in medicine as a discipline, right? I'm a doctor, and I want to investigate my patient's profile and looking into a global bunch of information about their health. Let's say I have all LN historical data, health data, and I put
True.
it into an AI, and I
Mm,
start arguing with the AI to figure out what's
mm,
the best treatment for LN to get a better health or to solve
mm,
some problem that you have. I will tell you that me, Fabricio, could not talk with an AI, even if I got all those information, because I don't have the medical language. I would not
mm,
understand I would not even know how to formulate a question for AI.
mm,
And
mm,
I'm
mm.
talking about using English or Portuguese, that is my own language, natural language, I could not formulate a question to talk with AI in a deeper sense of knowledge to talk about healthy, because I'm not a medical doctor. But a doctor would, right? Someone who studied medicine would be able to get to take the usage of that. So the discipline of business analysis gives us the language to talk not about health of people, but health of business. So if I want to articulate with AI, and they call it prompt engineering. I like to call it just speaking, right? So if I want to speak with AI into natural language to talk about business, it's not just English that I need to know. I need to know to talk about policies, about processes, about strategy, about goals, structure, systems. There's a lot of information that I can use to chat with AI and evolve ideas. And that's what we do very much with AI. We iterate some questioning and conversation, and that can help us to think more clearly and look into a bunch of data and use those data. So the discipline of business analysis is essential for someone who wants to develop their business using AI. So the disciplines becomes more important now than ever, especially for executives. If those executives want to understand and grow their business, they should learn a little bit about business analysis to be able to articulate how to speak about business in a clear way. We do it very well with business analysis.
Yeah, I think Fabricio, there's one famous statement, no? A fool with a tool is still a fool.
Yeah,
that
perfect.
So if you are a fool, even if you have a very powerful tool with you, you're still not going to utilize it very well because you don't know how to use the tool. So that point of view, I completely agree with you. A foundational knowledge about a discipline is so much helpful even today and will probably remain quite helpful in the future as well. Yeah, that's something very valid point.
And a fool with a great tool can make a lot of damage, right? So we should stop being a fool about business. And that's where the discipline, I believe, is now more important than ever. Because now it's not about building software, it's not about language or technical issues, it's about formulating it in a clear way that we can understand business and talk about business, and business analysis, the disciplines brings us there.
Very true.
That's about the discipline. Let's now talk about the role or the job of a professional business analyst, someone who works as a professional business analyst. And those jobs are being radically transformed. As you said, we can do very fastly or more fastly what we use it to take months to create a specification. You now create it in seconds using AI. Of course, you have to validate. So the seconds that AI used to create is not the full time you need to create a documentation or a specification. You have to review it and analyze. Even so, you can do that very more fastly than we could do it before, using more information that we could even possibly imagine before using AI. We can transcribe meetings and get requirements in a click of a button from a meeting that we just did. Like in this session that we're doing right now. If you just click a button, it can make a summary of this session for you, and it's probably a very nice one. Right? It's not bad. You probably review, adjust, use your terminology, make some adjustments, but it brings some good stuff. And especially for BAs who were just writing stuff, that's a job that's been is not bringing value anymore, right? So the value of a business analyst, a professional business analyst, someone who's playing the role, have to evolve to a higher level. So business analysts are not anymore being paid because they write documents. They're being paid because they connect with people, because they bring clarity for an engagement of people, because they unite different perspectives and help people to get connected and clarify those informations. Because they can connect strategy to operations and identify possible gaps and unite using those tools in a higher level. The soft skills has become even more important than the hard skills at this point.
True, very
And
true.
and professional business analysts, as they now can do more in less time, they're being called
Mm,
to engage into other kinds of activities that before just senior BAs were doing. So like
mm,
not just helping development teams to build software, but pre-project, analyzing different alternatives, trying to identify
mm,
what's the best usage of approach. After project, measuring if the benefits were realized. In a strategy level, trying to talk about what are the business goals from the
mm,
organization, transform what's the mission, the vision into a set of goals for a set of period, and then defining projects or evolutions for that company. So trying to think about the company in a higher level, not just
true, true.
how to build software, but how
Mm.
to think about the
Take the
business
company
and the
forward.
evolution of the business.
True, true. So I think that has been a focus, I think, from IIBA as well, like moving the BAs from more operational level to a more strategic level. That's, I think, something which every BA should look at. And maybe from my side, I would say if you are a junior BA at this time, think how can I make myself a mid-level BA, leveraging the tools and access that I have. If you are a mid-tier BA, think how can I make myself a top-tier BA. And if you are a senior BA already, you should think, how do I make myself a strategic advisor to the leadership team in the company? So I think that's a fair movement that people should see. And I think I totally agree with you. The role of behavioral skills will continue to evolve, and I think will become more important as the technical skills are a little bit available in abundance compared to what it was earlier. And I also take a very simple case saying that if you are working in a smaller company, like I am working in a small company, and we had only 22 developers in the beginning, and one tester and one BA. Now I'm telling my business analysis team, think like you have 10 developers available to you because AI adds another 8 developers to the 2 developers that we have. So think in the capacity mode that we are running a 10 developer company, and what else is possible for us to do when we have this kind of development capacity available. And I'm also
And, and,
encouraging my BAs to kind of do more prototyping using AI tools because that's something is available to us, and we don't have to depend on development team to do that. So is something that we can do. We can present it to stakeholders, take their inputs. And I think I totally agree with you. Like the role of a BA in bringing clarity, in bringing cohesion, will be very, very important in the future.
yeah, it is already. It is
Okay.
already now. Like in the Future Proof, the book from Angela Wick and Tim
Uh-huh.
Coventry, they talk about this uh, evolution where when the development cycle becomes very
Mm,
short, like you,
mm,
as you said, it's like I have 10 developers, or I just
mm,
put it in the AI, just build it on like magic, and it seems like magic sometimes.
mm,
What becomes the bottleneck of development is not development anymore, is decision taking. So
mm,
it's the business analysis side of it. So how can you articulate with everyone in your company and define what needs to be
mm.
built? Because when we define that, it's almost
Mm.
built like magic because we
True,
can use
true,
a
true,
very
true.
fast developer or sometimes even vibe coding it and creating software from that. So
Sure, sure.
where's the bottleneck now? The bottleneck is about
Mm,
understanding what must be done. And
mm.
so that's the role of a BA, right?
Yeah. In fact, at adaptive side, we have been looking at even developers. Okay, like those are not called as BAs, and we also see the challenge for developers because of AI. They also have a distinct challenge. So we have come up with a course which is called Business for Developers. That means how do you understand business, even if you are a software engineer or a tester or a QA, whatever be the role, understand business because that's what is going to protect you because now you are much more knowledgeable about business, sales, marketing, HR, finance. So you are aware to talk to stakeholders in a much broader sense than just talking technology, because technology will become commoditized quite soon. And I think it's getting commoditized pretty quickly. And I think another 5 years' time, I really doubt many of us would actually be doing hand-coded programming. We still do at Adaptive. We still have hand-coded coding, but I think that's probably will going to come down, as I see. That's a good
Yeah.
news.
Yeah.
So Fabricio, what would be
Thinking
your
about the
suggestion?
evolution,
Yeah, yeah. Sorry. Yeah,
may
go
I
ahead.
add a point on this? Thinking about evolution of programming,
Mm-hmm.
coding,
Mm,
I think I don't know, 4 decades ago, people were
mm-hmm.
programming using assembler. That was the
True,
language.
true,
So
true.
they had to write down very specific codes with
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
hexadecimal
Yeah, yeah,
characters.
yeah, yeah.
And at some point, someone created a higher level of
Mm-hmm.
programming that could compile
Mm-hmm.
into assembler, and
Mm.
you don't have to code assembler anymore. You can write
Very
in
true, very true.
COBOL or I don't know,
Whatever
another
language, yeah,
language
yeah,
that's a higher
yeah.
language.
Mm-hmm.
What we are seeing now is a different layer of programming. We had
Mm.
some fields like when they started developing components, and you could use a
Mm.
component instead
Very true, very
of
true.
writing it. Now we
Mm.
just speak in natural language, and there's
Mm.
some level of technology who translate our natural language into something
Mm-hmm.
that can be at some point in zeros and ones, right? In
Very
machine
true, very true,
coding, machine
very true.
language. So we are now have a higher level of programming, which is
Mm.
business, right?
Very true,
And
very true.
again,
Business language. Yeah,
if you can't speak business language, you can't
very
create
true.
business software anymore.
True, true, very true, very true. I think one suggestion I would ask from you, like both of us recognize the fact that behavioral skills, soft skills, whatever name you give it, is very paramount. So would you recommend a great resource for the same for our learners' benefit, that you have found an amazing book on behavioral skills or something like that? Because I
Um,
think BAPOC is very, very concise in that manner. So I've been looking for a better resource than that.
yeah, may I do a selfless plug and
Mm.
recommend? Please hold as a nice
Okay.
book.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So,
do speak a little bit about your book. Yeah.
all right. So this is my book called "Please Hold." It's not a technical book. It's actually a corporate novel. So, and to this
Mhm.
book, I tell a story of a guy who is not a business analyst. He works in the call center of a bank, and at one point in his life, he just realized that he's just doing his job, like changing hours of work for money. And he's concerned just about the activities that he have to do, but he creates no value at all for nobody. Like he's answering phone calls from the customers, but not solving any problem. And at some point, he gets so unhappy with his life that he says, "I'm going to change it, right? I'm going to
Mhm.
solve a problem of my customer today." But he had
Mhm.
this goal or this metric of his department that he had just 5 minutes to answer a call. So
Mhm.
he had five
Mhm.
minutes to end the call or change everything, and he decided to
Mhm.
change everything. So he does whatever he can to change to solve the problem of this customer, and that puts him into a loop of facts that makes his mindset to change. So
Mhm.
he stops from being an output driven person, someone who is just
Mhm.
working to make the
Producing
outputs of
outputs.
this thinking and outputs, and become an outcome driven person. So he
Very
changes
true.
his mindset and trying to
Mm.
understand what is the consequence of what I'm doing. How can I
Mm.
give value for those stakeholders who are working?
Mm. Mm.
And he started changing his corporate culture using business
Mm.
analysis techniques. So I really
Mm.
believe that business analysis techniques help us to change our vision from a very
Mm.
siloed vision to a more holistic vision and put us motivated not just by outputs but by for outcomes, right? And so it
Mm.
changed behavior, it changed the way he feels about his job, it's very poetic because it's a novel, but it brings this way of seeing the world that changes our mindset, and by changing our values and what we really believe, that change our
Mm-hmm.
behavior naturally. So I
True.
really believe behavior is based on the values and beliefs that we have in mind.
True,
That's
true,
what I
true,
call
true, true.
mindset.
Yes, that's true. I think I must read your book sometime, Fabricio. I'll find time. I did get the book from Angela, but somebody borrowed it in the conference and took it away from me. Then I said, okay, I'll again probably look through it. And I think some of the points he makes in the book is amazing. And it's definitely worth a read for every BA. Then I think from our learners' perspective, what would you advise for them to kind of be kind of much more relevant in the next 5 to 10 years time frame? What should they be doing?
There, talking specifically about AI, there's something that people call AI literacy.
Mm-hmm.
That I think is essential for anyone who is working as a BA today. You should not avoid AI and say, "Oh, that's not for me," or "Oh, I'm an old-fashioned BA."
Mm-hmm.
You have to engage. Everyone must be able to use AI to iterate, like we are talking about chatting, using natural
Mm-hmm.
language with AI, and if you start by
Very,
using that, that
yeah.
that's going to be very helpful, and you are going to start seeing opportunities not just for yourself as a professional
Mm,
but for your business, how your
mm,
business can use AI as a powerful differentiator, because that's where we're going to be called upon. We're as
mm,
business analysis professionals, we are engaged into transforming our business, our companies, our
true,
organizations. And
true,
the
true,
next
true.
transformations that are coming forward are using artificial intelligence. So we must
Very
be
true.
able to help our organizations to lead
Yeah,
this transformation. And by
yeah.
leading this transformation, there are some risks that we should be aware. Like artificial
Mm,
intelligence is not the systems we use it to create that are very deterministic, like those if then
mm,
else instructions. Like if
very true.
you see these kind of characteristics, then you do this, and you created a rules based
Mm,
engine. If you're using
mm,
AI is not deterministic. AI is probabilistic. AI
mm,
looks
mm,
into a picture and say it's a dog,
mm,
and it's
mm,
not
mm.
because there is a set of rules that define that
Very
it's a
true, very
dog,
true.
like it had four
Yeah.
legs and a tail. That's not how AI
True, true, true.
functions. It was trained by data and
Mm,
saw thousands of pictures of animals, and some
mm,
of those
mm,
were tagged as dogs, and it
mm,
can just realize, oh, it's a dog because it looks like a dog, right? But
mm.
that's not
Very true, very true.
deterministic.
Mm,
As BAs, we have to
mm,
understand that,
mm,
and help the business to figure out what kind of
mm,
decisions in my organization can be made
mm,
as
mm,
a probabilistic structure, like an
mm,
AI telling me that's a dog, or if
mm,
I go, I try to enter a building and that's a camera that see my face and identifies that's
mm,
me and opens the door, right? That's
mm,
something.
mm,
Another thing is I'm going to provide you a loan or not, right?
mm, mm, mm.
And I should be able to explain that by rules. Why are
Very
you
true.
receiving a loan or why you are
Mm,
not? Otherwise, you can
mm,
have a lot of biases and a lot of injustice. So we must understand, where should I
true, true.
use
Yeah.
deterministic structure for a
Mm,
system?
mm.
Where should I use probabilistic structure? So
Very true.
we must understand, when I'm talking about AI literacy, there's this
Mm.
understanding behind the risks of bad usage of AI, and so we can
True, true.
help our business to
Mm,
get the best usage of it, using it where it's very
mm,
uh,
mm,
valuable, like communications, language. Oh, it's perfect to talk.
mm.
Some
Very true.
decisions should not be done by AI. They should be done by
True.
rules.
Very
Not
true. Very true.
and
I
so
understand you,
we can
Fabricio. Yeah.
organize that.
Yeah. I think we did introduce a course called Generative AI for BAs last year. That's doing quite well. It's a very, very nice introduction to AI for BAs specifically. So that has been doing quite well. And I think we are looking at some new course next year, maybe on agentic AI, because there's a lot of discussion on agentic AI as well.
Yeah.
But that stuff is new, so we'll take a little time to stabilize and then do it. I think otherwise, I see the BA role evolving like you see, and I believe as long as we BAs continue to evolve, like I tell my father as well, like he was very afraid of computers. So I said, it's just a smart typewriter. Think in that way. Don't think computer is something which will kill you or anything, but it's a very smart typewriter. We had a dumb typewriter, now we have a smart typewriter. Now we should think that we have a software which is very smart, which can provide us with a lot of inputs, good guidance, but we still have to review the output very carefully because we never know what it is saying is true or false, and apply your own personal ethics judgment before you make a call. I think that's something I would tell all my BSO. I always say use, but verify. Don't
Mm-hmm.
use something blindly because that can be dangerous for your organization. It can face a lawsuit or something like that. Then you are putting the company into trouble. So please be very careful with the outputs that you produce as using these AI tools. Good,
Yes.
Fabricio. The parting thoughts from your side. What would you leave
Uh,
for our learners?
so final message you mean. So I, I recommend everyone to get connected with AI in some way and
Okay.
not to be so scared about it. Of
Okay.
course, there is something scary about AI because it changes so fast and it's
Mm,
happening so fastly. It's a point that we have an inflection that changes everything. Like we had before,
mm,
we have lived the rise of the internet that changed all business, right? Before
true,
internet
true,
and
very
after
true.
internet, we have different business.
Mm.
We had lived the mobile
Smartphones.
area. It changed
Yeah,
everything. We had
yeah,
pre-mobile and
yeah,
post-mobile.
yeah.
Something got better, something got worse. Like today, people are calling you
Mm.
in every time of the day just for working. Before they could not reach you when you were on vacations fishing, but now they can
Yeah,
put you
true,
into
true,
work.
true.
That's the bad part of it. But there's a lot of very nice parts of it. When we travel
Mm.
along the world using your cell phone, it's so nice and having access to internet. So being able to just chat with AI and having information wherever you are, it's even nicer. Being able to speak with someone in any language in the world and having AI translating that conversation, this is so
Mm.
nice. So
Very
AI
true.
is helping us in so several different ways. It's already there. We are using it every day. It's not something that's going to happen. It's something that is
Mm.
happening, but it's evolving in a fast speed that there's a lot we cannot see it yet. But sometimes you say, "Oh, I ask AI to do something and it just gives me crap." I think that that's the worst AI you will ever have from now to the future. So it's just
Very
improving.
true. Very
We
true.
have to
Very
be
true.
aware of that. So embrace that change and put
Mm.
yourself in the lead of that transformation. Probably that's the most important thing. If you're a business analyst, you're very skilled to talk about business and to help your organization to understand what are the possibilities that AI is bringing and how can we use those possibilities to change our business. So
Very true.
take
Very
the
true.
lead, use your skills to be a leader in that conversation, make everyone understand what are the possibilities. And that doesn't mean you have to bring the answers. You have to lead the conversation. You're the facilitator. You're someone who can help your organizations to align and to discuss and to evolve into this
Very true.
new
Very.
era.
Okay. Thank you, Fabricio, for your time. I think it is always a pleasure to meet you. And of course, this time we met virtually. This year I'm skipping BBC. My daughter's exams are on. But
Oh,
hopefully next year we will again see each other at BBC or some other event as well. I think once my daughter's exams are over, I'll be a bit more freer to move around. And I hope she does well in her exams. So all exams are 50% done, 50% still going through. So otherwise, I will definitely love to see you again. And thank you for your time. Thank you for your inputs. And I hope we will stay in touch. And if you need anything from me, from my organization, I'd be happy to contribute.
It's always a
Yeah,
pleasure to join you, LN. If someone who's watching this episode are not connected with me, please connect. I'm always chatting on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is probably the best place to join. Or
very
at
true.
thebrazilianba.com. There's a lot of content
Mm.
and information there. So it's going to be a pleasure to join.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye bye.